Hey everybody, Spider here, the Commission Podcast, of course, being joined by Willie, also local here to San Antonio. My man, how
Hello.
are you, bro?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing this evening?
Man, I just had a long work day. I know you say you got off like at 6 o'clock also, man. So, you know, how,
Actually, I didn't end up going to my brew store today because I talked to my business partner so I could get ready for this, so I could look up some stuff on my own and whatnot.
man, you lied to me, bro, already, man. Come on, man. I
I,
also want to talk about a
I,
long day at work and
well, I worked my regular day job, which requires me to get to work at 6 in the morning.
oh, okay, there we go, man. That's what I'm talking about, man. But yeah, man. I mean, I had a long day at work. You know, of course, yourself, man. I mean, you're local to San Antonio, man. And one of the things I'm gonna post this up there so everybody can see. But the Brew City Home Brew Supply is what you guys, who you guys are, man. I mean, of course, and the
Yes.
name says it's, it itself says it, man. I mean, home brew, man. For yourself, when did this start?
For me, it didn't really start that long ago. I moved away from San Antonio for a little bit because I joined the military. And when I came back in 2018, my dad was a part of a group that did a lot of homebrewing and stuff. And getting me reintroduced to people that he had met and everything. So I started going along with him. I watched a couple brews, and then about, I would say, December or January timeframe, 2018, 2019, I decided to go ahead and give it a try for myself and just kind of fell in love with the process and ended up really enjoying consuming the products of what I did.
No, and of course, man. Other than just owning a company, man. I mean, you guys also host classes, man, which I think is brilliant because
Yeah, it is. That's the one thing we wanted to do is we're both very passionate. My business partners, both of them have about 20 years experience,
oh wow,
with me being the least. And the store that was here in San Antonio closed down last year and it left a void. And we wanted the scene here to thrive because we have two brew groups in San Antonio. We have the Cerveceros and the Brer Brewers, and they had to find where they could get their supplies. And a lot of them started ordering online. I'm part of the Cerveceros, and they do a lot of stuff for the community. And it was just one of those that the community was here, and we wanted to be able to that they didn't have to go to Austin, they didn't have to
right.
order their stuff online. There was somewhere local where they could get it and support local business.
Nice, bro. And of course, I'm sure it helps, man, because I mean, San Antonio, man, there's a lot of brewing companies out there, bro. I mean, so if they need anything, I mean, I'm sure they contact you guys and get it done.
Mhm. We're trying to build that relationship right now. Um, the big thing we're offering, like you said, we do the classes, and it's part
Yeah.
of getting new people introduced. So I believe not this weekend, but next weekend, we're actually doing another meat and cider class. We do basic brewing classes. In the future, we're trying to do wine classes, soda classes, and everything.
Nice. And of course, man. I mean, I've never done. I mean, I love brew. I drink it, but I've never actually made my own, man. So, it's pretty cool, man. I mean, I know people that actually do that now, and if I don't know if it's time consuming, man. I mean, I'm afraid to try new things, but I might actually look into it, man. Because of course, once during the class, I mean, you get to make your own there, or how does that work?
So during the class, you don't get to make your own there, but what we do is we actually brew the beer and we show you how to do it. We explain the steps. My business partner is the one that runs the classes. He also goes over the history of brewing and the different types of alcohols we're teaching the class on. And part of the benefit of doing the classes in the paperwork we give you, it also gives you the recipe of what we made that day. And on the day of your class, recently we've been doing a 10% off for on the day of your class after it's over. So if you want to try to make that beer yourself, you can go ahead and pick up all the ingredients you need or equipment you would need if you don't have it.
Gotcha, man. Okay, so we don't get to make it, but we get to drink it, right? I mean, that's part of the plan.
You not the one that's brewed that day. You get to try some of the other samples that we have because we do
Right.
have a kegerator in our store with samples of stuff we've brewed. I think
Okay.
I think here soon we want to get to the level where we can have people that are brewing at home. If they have extra beer, they could come and throw it on our taps for people to try. And we brew all types of styles. I have a Pilsner there that I've brewed. My business partner has done stouts. He's done a Doppelbock,
Nice.
an IPA, a Baltic Porter. I'm getting ready to do a Wiesenbach, and then I want to do a pre-prohibition lager to go back to the first style of beer I ever brewed by myself.
Nice.
And so, like, we even have a little seating area for people to just come hang out and ask questions.
Okay, cool, man. And of course, I mean, when it comes to brewing your own beer, man, I mean, I would imagine, you don't want to make a Bud Light, you don't want to make a Budweiser because you can just go to the store and buy it, right? So you want to make something different.
I typically do, but I actually have brewed a Bud Light style beer once for one of the organizations I'm a part of, because not everybody likes your super fancy beer. Some people like their Bud Lights, and I made a very good beer. I hate how well it came out personally because I had so many issues brewing it in the first place, and then I drank it. I'm like, this is actually a good beer with all the issues I had making it.
Man, bro. And of course, you said you haven't been making it. You didn't get into this recently, right? But I mean, when it came to brewing, had you already done that like years prior, or did it just start when you got back from the military?
It just started when I got back from the military.
Okay, cool,
Uh,
man. And I gotta ask, bro, because I'm not a patient person, so
mhm.
does this take a lot of patience?
Yeah, it does, because depending on how you're brewing, you're looking at about anywhere from about 4 to 6 hours on the actual day you're making it, depending on how you're making it. And then you have to sit it, let there and ferment, which typically takes about a week to 2 weeks, depending on the style. And some ales you can drink after it's done fermenting, but all beer tastes better that after it's done fermenting and you get it in whatever you're going to store it in, just let it sit in the cold for a while and it just keeps on tasting better.
Nice, man. In that case, I might just have to go and try everybody else's beer, man. Because yeah, bro. But yeah, man. I mean, for those that are out there, of course, if they want to try it, I mean, I'm gonna put y'all's link, everything, information that way they can gather it. But yeah, man. I mean, that's actually pretty cool stuff, man. I mean, now, you say you're trying to build that relationship. I mean, with other companies here locally, man. So I
Mhm.
mean, with something like that, I mean, what are you guys thinking? I mean, just kind of like getting a collaborating, networking.
A little bit of networking. I've talked. There's owner of one of the breweries here in town that me and my dad are actually friends with, and I've kind of let him know, hey, if there's anything special you need that you don't need to order your size and your volume of, just let us know and we can order it for you so you can have it. We've actually already started working with the brew groups in town because there are homebrew competitions that people do,
Yeah.
and there's actually style guidelines for that and everything. And we're allowing people to come up and drop off their beer for those, and they have somebody come pick it up.
Right.
Um, I mean, a lot of the breweries were actually excited about us opening because we were getting constantly asked about it, and we actually printed up flyers for our grand opening when we did that and stuff, and tried to drop them off at some of the breweries, and they displayed them.
Nice, bro. And of course, man, I mean, I used to work at Academy Sports years ago, man, and they used to have like their own little brewing sets, man, and people used to buy them, but I mean, I never looked into it. But
Mhm.
of course, I mean, it's more than that, though, right? I mean, when it comes to you guys, because you guys have, I mean, they have questions, they can go to you guys directly and get those answered.
Yes. So, as I said, my business partner has more information than me, and I've picked up a lot from him in the about 4 months we've been open now.
Yeah.
But even that, if somebody comes in and they have a question that I can't answer, the first thing I do is I hop online and I look it up and I read several different sources so I can give them the best answer.
No, you see, and that's another thing too, man, because I can easily get on Google and I can put, homebrew and I can, but I'm personally for me, man, I'm more of a hands-on. So I'm
Mhm.
more like you telling me, hey, put this here, put that there, and that's how I function. But I mean, for people like myself, I mean, of course, that's kind of where you guys are handy, right? I mean, you can actually during class you can be there and just kind of direct everybody.
Yeah, we be you there. You get to see all the steps as we're doing them, and also one of the things we're actually looking into doing. Yet, like you have yourself have a group of friends that all want to learn how to make meat or any of that stuff, you can reach out to us and let us know, and we can try to schedule a private class. I think we've done that
Oh, nice.
once already.
Okay. And of course, I mean, what would something like that consist of? I mean, it's just, of course, getting it scheduled. But I mean, would you guys supply? I mean, we just pay the fee and you guys supply the product, or how does that work?
So you would pay the fee, and we would put together a grain bill recipe and show you how to make it and everything. As far as actually keeping the beer, I believe that's something that can be discussed. But
Right.
the issue with that comes in is having something to store it in, which we do sell all the stuff to store it in. We have kegs, we have
Right.
bottles, and it would just be waiting for the finished product and see what we can work out.
Okay. And man, let me ask you, man, because when it comes to I mean, having a place of business like this, I mean, are you guys looking at actually like making y'all's own label, or do you guys already have that going on?
Uh, if that's anything we're going to do, that's going to be further on down the line, because right now our products that we make ourselves we can't sell per
Right.
TABC guidelines because we're just the supply store. But we like to have the samples for people to try and see like, oh, this is what this can do.
Nice, bro. No, man, definitely, bro. And of course, man, like I had mentioned earlier before you started getting into the Q&A, man. I mean, we pretty much cover like conventions, events. You know, we're out there doing
Mhm.
horror events and sci-fi and everything else. That's pretty cool. But when it comes to horror, man, are you a fan of horror movies, bro?
I am. I actually just watched yesterday waiting to get on this with you today.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, man, what were your thoughts? Let me ask you.
Overall, I liked it. There were some parts that just kind of felt forced or shoehorned in that kind of set awkward. But rather than that, it stuck true to a lot of the stuff that I've grown to love about the Evil Dead series with the body horror and the supernatural element of it. It's just, I mean, for me, you can cut off about the first 5-10 minutes in the woods and the last 5 minutes where it ties the beginning back into it. Because for me, that just felt kind of useless. But I also love the homage to Ash with the shotgun and the chainsaw. I love the almost Shining-esque elevator scene and all the fake blood. I was waiting for when they were going to drop the massive amount of fake blood. I did like how they tied in the tree scenes with the elevator from the original Evil Dead and then the remake from
Yeah.
2013. So there was a lot of good homages to a lot of the classics, but while still keeping its own identity.
No, you see, man, and when I saw it, I mean, the beginning, of course, caught my attention, got my attention, should I say, because it
Mhm.
was like right in your face, and I was like, oh, damn, okay, you know, it kind of set the pace for the rest of the film. There were a
Mhm.
lot of scenes, like you said, that were paying homage, and for those that know the movies, and maybe there's people that don't know anything about the past movies or whatnot, so I'm sure they didn't see them. I mean, but yeah, we
Mhm.
did notice them. You know, they were out there, and for the fans of the originals and the first and second, you know, it was pretty cool, man, to see. And like you said, you know, the fact that they paid homage to you know, with the whole chainsaw. I mean, that was pretty dope. You know, I got that right off the bat. But yeah, no, it's like I will say this: the
Yeah.
first time I saw it at the theater, and I loved it, man. I was like, you know what, man, it was pretty cool. It was like a little throwback. It was better than a lot of horror films that I've been seeing, you know, that are coming out. But at the same time, when I saw it
Yeah.
again for the second time, I kind of like, oh man, okay, like it wasn't exciting, you know, so it wasn't. I guess as
Yeah.
great as I thought it was, you know, but it was definitely still pretty good, though, man.
I mean, and I will say, I love the fact that horror movies are getting bigger, but we're also starting to see the issues with that as well. Because
Bro,
we're ending up with these great horror movies with good special effects and everything, but it seems like most of the ones that come out, you can feel the studio's influence on them, and there's a lot of stuff you're waiting for to happen, or you think is going to happen would be the perfect addition to the film, and then it doesn't
yeah.
happen.
You see, and I kind of wondered about that, man, because of course, a lot of movies. I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid. You know, in the early '80s. You know, all the way up, and
Mhm.
I can kind of, if I'm watching the movie, I'm already like, okay, that's the killer. That guy dies, and in my head, I'm already
Yeah.
like, and a lot of times I'm right. I'm like, okay, cool, man, and you know, so because of that, I'm like, okay, you know what, like nothing really surprises me. But yeah, there's a few films that have been coming up, and I'm kind of like, oh damn, like they kind of throw a wrench in my gear, and I'm like, man, I didn't expect that, you know?
I would say one of my favorite modern horror movies that was kind of its own thing was Midsummer,
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
because I really like the slow burn that had in it. Like the creepiness and everything was there in the beginning, but it wasn't in your face, and it just kind of slowly built throughout the whole movie and made it good.
no, and of course there was a recent one that I saw, man. I mean, new one that Talk to Me. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one yet. I want to.
Okay, okay, yeah, man. I mean, definitely, we'll definitely bring you back on here and talk about that one, man. That one, I mean, I saw it
Alrighty.
the day of, and I I enjoyed it. It wasn't because I'm in, well, not because I'm an '80s guy, because some guys in the '80s might like you know, when it comes to a lot of gore, a lot of, you know, I'm more of a
Mhm.
horror comedy kind of guy, man. Like Return of the Living Dead, Chopping Mall. You know, I love those films. But this one, I
See,
enjoyed it, man. It was definitely pretty good, man. So definitely go watch it, bro. It was good.
and that's why I really like Evil is because the first one came out and they tried to make it a serious horror film, and
I
just
know,
because the
man.
budget was so bad, it became very campy. Instead of having, like you see with some horror directors, you get mad like, no, this is a serious horror film. It's not campy. Sam Raimi just kind of leaned into the campiness of it, did the soft reboot with Evil Dead 2, and then you end up with Army of Darkness and Ash Williams versus the Evil Dead. Those were perfect because it still had that intense body horror, but the whole time you'll go from laughing because something ridiculous
Yeah,
just happened, and then
yeah,
kind of cringing because Ash Williams cuts off his own hand.
yeah. No, yeah, man. I mean, in those, I mean, it's I think the new ones like Terrifier. Like I started watching the first one, I couldn't finish it, bro. I was just like, wasn't my cup of tea. The
Mhm.
second one, I was watching a film and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, Terrifier 2 was like like in the middle. So I kind of saw a little bit, but I turned over and went back to sleep, bro. So I haven't seen them completely. But
Mhm.
those, I mean, there's obviously people love them because the ratings are freaking nuts. The third
Yeah.
one's supposed to be a lot better, man. The budget's supposed to be a lot more. I'm just kind of
Okay.
curious on those, like if it's gonna get, like you said, if it's gonna get to where the studio's gonna get a lot more control and it's gonna lose a lot of its
Mhm.
value, man. I mean, it's just we'll have to see.
Or it falls victim to some of the other horror franchises before it. Freddy had the issue where it started out great and then just kept going, and the quality just kind of changed.
No,
Same
yeah,
thing with same thing with the Friday the 13th movies. Started out strong, had some good ones, and had some good ones sprinkled in throughout it, but you ended up with some weird ones like Jason Goes to Hell,
yeah, bro.
and then a horror series that I wish they would have stuck with the original idea that you saw in the first two films, but changed it, was actually the Halloween series,
Yeah,
because it was supposed to be more of an anthology series, which is why Halloween 2 had nothing to do with Michael
I
Myers.
know. I know, man. And people still talk about that because yeah, the first time I saw it, I said, man, is this? I thought it was like a version of the first one. I was like, man, did they just
Mhm.
kind of go off on it? But I don't know, man. We'll see. I know as far as like the new Scream, or the Scream 7, supposed to be in the works. Did
Mhm.
you happen to see Scream 6?
I have not seen Scream 6 yet. I kind of fallen off the Scream series a little bit. I do plan eventually to go see it, but it's one of those. They'll have to do something interesting because Scream was so good when it came out
Yeah,
because it challenged everything horror movies was. They pretty much laid everything out in the beginning and made fun of other slasher films,
yeah,
and then they just kind of fell victim to the tropes they were making fun of.
yeah. No, yeah, and that's funny how that happens. I mean, I'm sure the studio or the people behind, with the money,
Mhm.
I guess you should say that they have a lot to say, when it comes to making the film, because of course
Mhm.
they're putting investing in this. But yeah, man. I mean, the part 6, I did enjoy. I mean, it was actually pretty good. There's a couple of things on there, like, yeah, I kind of cringed on, and not because it was bad, but it's just like kind of replayed or relapped, the first
Yeah.
5. It was just like, okay, I've kind of seen that already. But it was good though, man. I mean, I definitely, the fact that I saw it in the theater, and as a matter of fact, I went to go see that one with my girl. It was on 3D, and I sat through the whole thing,
Okay.
man. And I told people, man, my eyesight's so bad, bro. I saw no 3D, bro. I sat there and I'm
Yeah.
watching it, and I'm like, bro, like I took my glasses off, and it was a bad experience on that perspective. But I did see it again without on 3D, and it was pretty good, man.
I mean, Scream still has its place, even the old washed up ones. Because was it Scream 5? The intro to Scream 5 was great when they were making fun of horror
Bro.
series just continually going on for years and years and years. So that was a nice little breath of fresh air into the series. And then, oh man, what I want to see more of is stuff like VHS and the ABCs of Death, where you have the whole movie with the short anthology series in it as well.
Yeah, you see something like that would be cool, man. Like I'm a big fan of like indie horror films that are coming up, man. So I try to
Mhm.
keep up with as many as possible. But a lot of them fall short. Of course, budget
Mhm.
issues. But I mean, if the storyline's good, I'll stick with it and I'll keep watching it, man. But it's just
Yeah.
a lot of them seem to drag. It's just the middle kind of gets prolonged, and it's like before I know it, I'm just like, man, let's hurry up and finish it, man. Let's go.
And that's kind of why I like the VHS, because VHS, all the shorts had a different director,
Yeah,
and they were all only about 5-10 minutes long, and they were able to put these perfect stories in that time slot.
yeah. You see, and that's for me, man, honestly, like you said earlier, you know, you were talking about those movies. Kind of, it could have gone without the first 5 minutes, the first 10 minutes, or the last
Mhm.
10 minutes, because a lot of these movies, like yeah, like if they were shorter, and they would have cut a lot of the storyline, or not even the storyline, but there's sometimes it just kind of goes off, and you're like, okay, I have no idea what that was. But it's
Yeah.
like they just seem to make it long enough, and it's like the quality kind of gets washed down, and but yeah, man, I mean, I agree with that. A lot of those shorter films, man, I mean, they're like right to the point, and it's like boom,
Mhm.
before you know it, it's like wow, okay, that was good.
Yeah, they're always good to watch, and I will say that's probably in modern times where YouTube has helped a lot. Is now you have a lot of indie people that'll just make YouTube shorts,
Yeah.
horror shorts, and stuff like that that are perfectly suspenseful. Like YouTube, I don't know if you would consider it horror or sci-fi. You have the Back Room series, which you can just put on one video, and it's hours of just random stuff happening in this alternate dimension, and it's great. And one video just skips to the next, skips to the next.
No, yeah, you see, and for me, man, I mean, I like watching stuff like that too, man, only because a lot of it grasps it gets my attention. If I'm
Mhm.
at a theater and a movie's not good, man, like I start wandering off, and I start hearing. I notice the
Yeah,
people over here talking. I start, you know what I mean, like the light over there kind of blinking, and I'm like, oh man, that's when I know they lost me. But I
yeah.
paid for it, so I can sit through it.
As soon as you start looking around, it's
Yeah.
game over. It's definitely lost your attention.
No, for sure, man. And bro, I mean, of course, earlier, man, you had talked about moving back to San Antonio. I mean, you were prior military, so of course, thank you for your
Yes.
service, man. Where were you at, man? Where were you stationed at?
So I was in the Navy. I was a Navy corpsman. So I actually did my training for my job here in San Antonio at Fort Sam. After that, I went to Okinawa, Japan, and I was there at a naval hospital for 2 years. And
Wow.
then when I was done there, I went to more training in North Carolina and ended up getting stationed with a Marine unit in Jacksonville, North Carolina before I came home.
Okay, man. And during this time, because of course, you're out there serving. I mean, you get a job, you kind of stick to your duties. But what were you doing? Were you already thinking like, man, what am I gonna do when I get home? Or I mean, were you planning stuff already?
No, I wasn't really planning stuff. I mean, I was young and an idiot. By the time I got out, I was just like, this isn't really what I wanted for myself. Um, well, it was. I enjoyed what I did. There was just certain people in leadership positions that made it hard, and I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't really feel like I was doing much, so I decided to get out. But I mean, I got to do some cool stuff. Okinawa was the coolest place to be because it's actually where you can get one of the most accurate recollections from a war because from World War II.
Yeah.
Because let's see, there's Shuri Castle there, which the U.S. paid to have rebuilt after World War II because we demolished it
Yeah. I
through
remember that.
bombings and everything. And the cool thing about that is there was actually one point where they had a hole in the floor with a glass where you could see the original foundation of it.
Oh wow.
Um, they also had Peace Prayer Park, which I believe was on the southern portion of the island. Yeah, it was on the southern portion of the island, and it actually has the names of everybody that died during the Battle of Okinawa, whether it be American, Canadian, Japanese. And the crazy thing when I got there in 2013 and I was doing my in-dock brief for the island, the one thing they told you is like, hey, if you see old rusted metal sticking out of the ground, don't kick it because there's a chance it's unexploded ordnance from World War II.
Damn.
And at least up until that time, they were still finding bodies from World War II.
Wow, man. No, I mean I can only imagine, bro. Because of course, I mean there was a lot of carnage that happened, man. I mean the
Mhm.
war was pretty. I mean all wars are bad, but I mean yeah, there's a lot of lost lives. But yeah, you kind of got to learn from them, man.
Oh yeah, definitely the case. And the reason why Okinawa is so unique is Okinawa was occupied at Japan at that point in time. It wasn't part of Japan, and the Japanese weren't good to the Okinawan people at that time. And so when you get the history of the Battle of Okinawa and Okinawa, it's not biased towards one side or the other. It's literally this is what happened here.
Yeah.
Because a
No.
lot of the time you see with history is that typically it's written by the victor and it gets very
Oh
very
yeah.
skewed to make them look a little bit better even though they were kind of doing the same similar
No.
messed up stuff to the people they were fighting against.
No, for sure, man. And I'm sure that's kind of one of the cool things is that you're actually there and you're able to hear their version, of what
Mhm.
happened. Because of course, yeah, like you said, the victors are the ones that write the books, the history books. So we don't know any better. We just read it and assume, okay, yeah, we were the victims, when a lot of times, hey, things happen, man.
Wasn't the case, yeah.
Yeah. But man, earlier also, man, I was telling you I do a fight car podcast, man, which we cover a lot of combat sports. This Friday, we're actually getting the PFL MMA promotion here at the Boeing Tech Center.
Oh,
I'm gonna,
nice.
I'm gonna be out there doing. I got my media pass, so I'm gonna be case side. I love that stuff. So, but fan of MMA, man. I mean, are you a fan?
Uh, I enjoy watching it from time to time. I don't sit down and watch it all the time. I did a little bit when I was younger because it's something I would do with my family, and I did catch a little bit of this last fight, but I ended up going to bed early because I was wiped out. But like, no, I enjoy watching it, and it's great watching some of those fighters. It just the level of talent they have and the physical beating they can take multiple times a year will always be impressive to me because I know at the end of the day there's no way I'm getting in the ring with nobody and going that many rounds and still kind of be all right the next day.
No, no, for sure, man. I mean, I know I've been following the sport for years, man. I mean, when I started myself training here in what they call MMA now,
Mhm.
it was brutal. It was reality fighting for us, so it kind of made sense. It's kind of why I pursued it, because it was more real. It wasn't just like, hey, we'll stand there, go by points, or we'll stand there, go rounds. It
Mhm.
was just like, man, you go in there and either get finished or finish the guy.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
that's what attracted me to it at the beginning, man. But yeah, man, it's brutal, man. Like I wouldn't. I mean, depending how much they're paying me, I probably wouldn't get in there, bro. But we'll see.
I mean, and that's one of the things I would kind of like to see the UFC do is do a heritage match.
Yeah.
Put two people in two different weight classes with two completely different styles against each other, and let's see who comes out on top.
No, I mean, yeah, talk about the old pride. Back then, I mean, I know they had weight divisions, of course, but a lot of times you would get a guy that will go up in the heavyweight division, and
Mhm.
it would turn out good, and sometimes not so good. Because the bigger guy, of course, more power, more weight, so they got to
Mhm.
throw that around. But yeah, man, it's just they had to get sanctioned, so of course they had to create rounds, and
Yeah.
it is what it is now. The UFC, man.
I mean, and definitely the change that the UFC and MMA has made in general isn't a bad change. It makes it more enjoyable because you don't end up with too many fights anymore that go short rounds because, one dude just clearly had the advantage because of size. You
Yeah.
still do get those short fights, but it's impressive when it does happen because it's the right thing happened at the right moment, not just pure strength out doing something.
No, no, for sure, man. And one of the things, man, and I always tell people, because a lot of these fighters, I mean, of course, they're walking around like at 180, 195 pounds, and they cut all the way down to 155. They cut 30, 40 pounds. And when you see them in the ring and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, they look pretty big, it's because they are, man. They're big dudes.
Oh yeah, it's like it's one of those things. You see those professional athletes on TV so much, and they're typically around somebody their size, so you really don't get the aspect of how tall they are. Like the
Yeah.
best way I can think to describe it is from TV show standpoint is the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah,
That
bro.
guy, he's
Huge.
actually a professional bodybuilder, and you see him on the TV, and you're like, oh yeah, he looks big. But then you see pictures of him with fans or you see any of the strongman competitions and it's like, oh no, he's not just big, he's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. They call him the mountain for a reason, right? But
Mhm.
you see,
Yeah.
one of the examples, man, for me, and they showed it the other day too, because Gagey, of course, he just fought Dustin Poirier.
Mhm.
He won, so congratulations to the guy. But he
Yeah.
trained with Kamaru Usman, and they show him side by side, and they're both pretty much the same size, bro. Like I'm like,
Mhm.
damn, that's how. I mean, Gagey could easily be fighting in the 170-pound, weight division, man. But it's just like, yeah, bro. Once you see them next to somebody else that's big, you're like, damn, dude, that guy is pretty tall, man.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I'll have to ask you this about those fights the other night. How'd you feel about the two fighters that couldn't make weight?
Man, I mean, because it does happen in the
Mhm.
regional circuit. A lot of times, Wonder Boy, Stephen Wonder Boy, Thompson, he had talked about it, and he said that there has to be something has to be done. But a lot of these fighters, even in the regional circuit, they're like, oh man, I'll pay part of my purse, and they kind of, that's it. But
Hmm.
to everybody's surprise, a lot of times the other fighters like, nah, man, I'm not gonna take it, and
Yeah.
the fans get upset, the promoters get upset. But it's like, man, like if they're both, if the other guy's making weight and he went through what he went through to make it
Hmm.
happen, and then the other guy's just like, I'm over 6 pounds or 8 pounds. It's like, nah, bro, like it's got to be a bigger payout, man.
I agree with that completely because I've never had to cut weight for a sport, but I've seen the videos of people that have had to cut weight and what they go through to cut that weight. And if somebody works that hard to make sure they're within the mark and the other person doesn't even try, why should the other person get a chance to make money when they didn't put in the same effort?
No, no, yeah. You see, I mean, I know a lot of guys that are in the UFC, man. Like, Jeff Neal, who's actually fighting coming up, man. It's going to be within this month. We got uh, guys like from here in San Antonio that have been in the UFC, and a lot of times everybody always says it's the last few pounds that are always the hardest, man, because you
Mhm.
already depleted, you already cut your calorie intake, and it's just water, and it's like, man, the last 3-4 pounds are always the hardest, but it's possible. It's just, I mean, you gotta endure that pain and
Yeah.
suck it up and just make it happen, man.
And I think that's the one thing that a lot of just fans don't understand that haven't had anything to do with that sport or understand the medical aspect of it is that last 3, 4 pounds, as you said, is water weight. And a lot of fighters, when they do go to do their weigh-ins, they're typically have
Right.
starved themselves for 2, 3 days beforehand to get their calories
Yeah.
down and get their weight down. And they're also super dehydrated because they got rid of as much of their water weight that was safe.
No, yeah, there's a meme that goes around, and I share it on the Texas Fighting page. But it's like, man, as far as what I said yesterday, I'm sorry, I was cutting weight. Because it's like, man, you're cutting weight and your brain's fried and you're dehydrated severely, man, and
Yeah,
it's dangerous. There's a lot of fighters that have passed out at the weigh-ins, and it's just because they black out, man. I mean, they got no
yeah,
more liquid, and it's like, it's pretty brutal, man. Your kidney can only take so much, man, or your liver, should I say?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
bro,
dude, it's crazy.
and man, and well, let me ask you, bro. I mean, being that you're local, man, you're here in San Antonio. I mean, when you were out there, in Okinawa, when you were out there in other states, and people, when you told them you were from San Antonio, Texas, man, what was the first thing they would think, man?
Uh, when I was in Okinawa, not too terribly much because a
Okay.
lot of the people that I worked around were corpsmen and either trained or part of the first couple classes that trained at Fort Sam, so they already kind of knew what it was. I mean, every once in a while, I got the smart ass comment from Full Metal Jacket, the whole Steers comment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But much other than that, not anything too crazy. Uh, I think I surprised a little bit of people because, like, so I'm not originally from Texas, so I really don't talk with that heavy of a Texas accent unless I've been around here a long time. My accent kind of changes to be around the people I'm around because I
Yeah,
actually grew up
yeah.
as a military brat as well. So it's just one of those habits I adapted to, kind of fit in and make friends easier. Is you kind of adjust your speech and mannerism to be around the people you're around so they feel comfortable with you, but nothing too crazy. But I mean, you look at the Marine Corps, most of those people are from the South anyway.
Yeah. No, that's true,
So,
man. That's true. And that's funny you said that how you change your mannerism, because a lot of
mhm,
times I tell people I can sound educated, I can sound hood, man. I can go down. I've worked all over the city, so yeah, you just tend
mhm.
to make it happen. It's not. So I don't know. I don't think it's something that we're kind of like, oh man, I gotta talk like him, but it just happens.
Yeah, it just happens naturally.
Yeah. And bro, and of course, man, being that you're local, man. I mean, what are some of the things for people that are watching? They're from outside the city, man. I mean, for them to come to San Antonio, man, what would you tell them would be the definitely the two things that they got to do while they're here in town, bro?
I hate
Besides go to you guys, of course,
this sounds good to us. I hate it because it's such everybody tells people to go do this, but I think seeing the Alamo is important
Yeah,
whether you care about Texas history or not because one, it's still a big portion of the history of the US and
yeah,
Texas alone, but I don't think the size and the gravity of the situation really hits you until you see exactly how small the Alamo is.
I know, man. Yeah,
And then, rather than that, not the Riverwalk because that's just become a giant tourist trap. What would be good to see? I would say probably hitting even though it's kind of changed and becoming a little bit more commercial hit, North St. Mary's where the Rabbit used to be, because there's still a lot of good
Okay.
art and stuff on the buildings down there. And that's the one thing that killed me is while I was gone in the military is when the White Rabbit closed down. I'm like, when I was 18,
Yeah.
19, I was there almost every month.
Oh yeah, bro. I've been there, bro. Believe me, man. I remember it was crazy,
Mhm.
crazy nice, man. But
Oh, and also try to come to San Antonio during Fiesta if you
there you
really
go.
want to party.
There you go. I was gonna say, and I always tell people, I mean, because from Fiesta starts, man, that's when it starts, and it kind of goes
Mhm.
on for like 2, 3 months, So people want to keep celebrating, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's interesting to see how much of downtown they shut down for the parades and everything.
Bro. And of course, I mean, now they kind of, the carnival is like at the Alamo Dome now, and before
Mhm.
it was just like a big chunk of the inner downtown area that closed down, and it was just like everybody just walked around everywhere, bro. Nobody cared, man.
Yeah, no. San Ant- Downtown definitely becomes a little bit lawless around Fiesta time.
Yeah, bro. No, yeah, and that's another thing I won't talk about because I'll plead the fifth to a lot, man. Young and dumb, bro.
Yep.
But yeah, man. But of course, man. I mean, back to you guys, man. I'm gonna post this up, for those that have been watching or are gonna be watching later. The
Mhm.
Brew City Home Brew Supply. I mean, this is where you guys, your business. You have your business partners, and everybody works there. Of course, spreading what you guys are doing, man. Because of
Mhm.
course, it's a craft. The fact that you craft your own beer, that's kind of cool. You get out there and actually get to experiment and. But man, what's the craziest thing that you've ever done? Let me ask you that.
With brewing beer,
Yes, sir.
I will say the craziest thing I've ever done was probably my first beer. Because typically when people get into brewing beer themselves, they do what's called extract brewing,
Right.
which is you use the same type of grain sugars and everything you do from what's called all grain brewing, except you know exactly how much sugar you're getting out of it. So I kind of jumped into it feet first, and not only did I jump into it feet first, but I jumped into a beer style that you can't find to try and really compare what you're making to, because I did a pre-prohibition lager. And so I jumped into making this beer without knowing what it was supposed to taste like. And then I joined a couple fraternal organizations, and one of them, I'm a Shriner and a Mason here in Texas. And the Shrine has a yearly competition. And the first year I was a part of them, I took my pre-prohibition lager up to a competition between all the shrines in Texas and took second place with it.
Oh wow, wow. And what was the flavor you were going for?
I didn't know, so I had kind of what the style told me, which I can actually look up what it says, because being the home brewer I am, I actually have an app on my phone that tells me the different beer styles and what they're
Oh
supposed
man.
to taste like.
Okay, cool, man.
Uh, There we go. Historic beer pre-prohibition lager. It's supposed to taste malty, so you're supposed to get that grainy taste from
Yeah.
it. There's also like a good portion of it's corn, so you're supposed to be able to taste a little bit of the corn.
Nice.
And I don't think there was supposed to be too much hops in it.
Okay, cool, man. And of course, I mean, when you first made that, I mean, were you happy with that? I mean, were you kind of like you tasted it and you were like, okay, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I was excited because it was the first beer I ever brewed, and it took me about 2, 3 weeks to ferment it. So it was like 2, 3 weeks of wondering, hey, did I mess something up in one of my processes? And this is going to come out terrible. What's it going to taste like? And then that moment when I actually got to try it for the first time after it was carbonated and everything, it was great. And I was in love with it ever since then.
Nice, bro. And of course, I think you had mentioned earlier you went ahead and redid that, right? Or were you thinking about?
I'm getting ready to do it because when I originally brewed that, I was using somebody else's recipe that I found online.
Uh,
And when I opened up the brew store with my business partners, it kind of reignited my brewing
oh yeah, bro. I can only
want,
imagine. Yeah.
because I ended up brewing so much for a while. I kind of fell off for a little bit and was doing it sparingly. But like we opened the business and I sat down and I just started going through beer styles that I wanted to make, completely building my own recipes for it. And so I actually have a list of a couple recipes that I need to try to make to see how they come out, because it's just completely my own brainchild based off of nothing else.
No, that's pretty cool, man. Like I said, I mean, who knows, man? Maybe I'll have the patience one day to actually go in there. I definitely want to go and stop by and check out the y'all's location, man, for sure.
It's nice. It's kind of in a weird spot over off of Hebner, because it's right after Babcock. We have most of the places around us are all like medical supply stuff. Like we have a
Yeah.
mobility place with wheelchairs. There's an oxygen place right next to us. But on the far end from us towards actual Huebner, there's extreme lighting and sound.
Ah, okay, okay.
So it's definitely an interesting little place.
No, well, cool. Well, I mean, well, it definitely sets you guys apart, right? Because I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
the only the homebrew place in that area for one thing.
Actually, we're the only brick and mortar homebrew supply in San Antonio.
Man, look at that, bro. You see, and that's what I was saying earlier, because I mean, like, we sold some stuff, at Academy Sports years back,
Mhm.
and I guess they stopped selling it because towards the end we just didn't have any more. But
Mhm.
obviously it's something that's needed, because, like you said, you guys building that relationship with other brewing companies here in San Antonio, man. Of course,
Mhm.
just open more doors and more clientele, man.
I mean, that's really what we want. We also want to help build the community and help the community thrive.
No, no, for sure, man. And of course, man. I mean, when it comes to home brew, man. I mean, of course, what's the process, man? I mean, when you get to work, I mean, what is it that you guys have to do? Like inventory, I mean, setup, calls.
So we're actually getting ready to do our first inventory now that we've been open for a while. But typically, we start our day. I don't typically go into 3 and after we've been open for a while because I don't get out of my day job until 3. But typically, we build grain bills for people. They come in, they say, I need 5 pounds of two row, which is one of our base mounts. I need a pound of corn. I need 6 ounces of this specialty malt, and we'll go in. We have a bulk grain that we measure out for them, and then depending on who it is, we'll ask them if they want it mixed and milled. So what that means is we'll actually mix all the grain into a bag together, and if they want it milled, we have a grain crusher that we can put it through for them, and
Nice.
then we bag that up. Answering phone calls with people that have questions, because that's the one big thing we like to do is tell people, hey, while you're brewing this, if you have any questions, call us. If we're closed, go ahead and hit up our Facebook, and we should be able to answer the questions you have. um, but opening procedures, when I do it on Saturday, because Saturday is the one day I can get in there when we open,
Yeah.
it's typically we get in, we check our email, we check our point of sale for orders that people put in for their grain, because that's what like we like to suggest to people, because it's a lot easier if we have them ahead of time, because
Right.
we can get it bagged up and milled for them and everything, and just have it sitting waiting for them to come in.
Nice, bro. And of course, that's one of the things. I mean, it is work, so you got to go there and you got to work, do
Mhm.
some work, right? But I mean, for the most part, I'm sure you guys enjoy it, man. I mean, you get to go out there and do something that you enjoy doing yourself, so that's got to be pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I mean, just working with my business partners, I've grown my knowledge of beer making exponentially in the last 4 months. And then it's nice to talk to and hear what other people are doing, because there's somebody that's going to do something weird to a beer that you never thought of, and you just think, I kind of really want to taste that to see how it's turned out.
Yeah.
Like, I think the craziest thing I ever heard of is one of the people I knew brewed a beer from potatoes.
Whoa. Okay.
I don't think I ever got to try that one, but I heard that. I'm like, I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm intrigued.
No, you see, and I was gonna say, man, that's got to be one of those things that, I mean, do most of the time, do they bring you guys like samples? Do they kind of like, hey, you know what, here you go?
Some people do, some people don't. What I'm excited for is this Saturday, the 5th, we're actually doing a beer exchange for the first time. So we've kind
Oh,
of just put out to the community, hey, we're doing a beer exchange, and it's for International Beer Day, which is tomorrow.
yeah.
And we're like, hey, just come hang out with us, bring something to share if you want to. We'll be here.
And that's open to anybody in the city, right? I mean, they can just
Yeah,
contact you
that's, you don't even have to contact us. Just come in and check it
guys.
out. Ask questions while you're there, and try some good beer. I mean, we'll have our stuff on tap, and then other people will have stuff that you can try. And that's the one thing I've noticed. If somebody brings in a beer to try, they're not going to tell anybody. From my experience, no, you can't try this because you didn't bring anything, or no, you can't try this for this. It's typically like, hey, try this and tell me what you think about
Nice, man. Well, that's got to be good. Heck, man, I wouldn't mind trying a couple beers, man,
it.
just to see what's out there, man. Because of course, I mean, I've been drinking, for years. I mean, I kind of, I slowed down, of course. Back in the '90s and 2000s, kind of crazy, man. But but yeah, man. I mean, coming home now and just kind of sipping on a beer, just relaxing, man. I mean, it's definitely it's not a lot of people don't drink, so that's not a problem. But for those that do, of course, man, it's always rewarding. Go home and just kind of unwind and relax.
Yeah. And I will say that's kind of where I didn't really get into craft beer until I was already out of the military. And I think that's the one thing that kind of let me break some of my bad habits from the military was starting to actually drink good beer and actually enjoy what I was drinking. So it wasn't, let's see how quick I could finish all this beer.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let me sit down and really enjoy this.
No, you see, and that's true because that's one of the things. I mean, with me, it was more like, hey, let's buy all the good beer and we'll have cheap beer at the end in case we run out of money, and we
Yeah.
just kind of got stuck with whatever. But yeah, man. I mean, I love a good stout. Guineas and anything dark. I mean, were always my go-to, man. And for me, I'll put it this way, man. There was a Heineken Tauernbach. I don't know if they still make that, but it was like a dark Heineken, and this was like in the early '90s, and the way I came about buying it, a buddy of mine, he had bought like cases, and he was like, "Hey man, I don't want them. If you want them, you can have them." I took them home. I opened one, and it was thick, bro. Like it was like syrup, It was, but nobody else liked it. So I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna start buying these because nobody would drink my beer, man. So it kind of kept everybody from drinking my Heineken Tauernbach, that's kind of where my love for stout kind of came to be. And before I knew it, man, I was just like, man, okay, yeah. I definitely enjoyed it, and it's great tasting, man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and tying back to the horror movies and everything, there's actually some beer companies out there that actually name some of their beers
Yeah.
after movies or movie
Oh yeah.
characters. And like me and my dad did the same thing with our beers in the beginning, is all our beers had Star Wars themed names.
Oh, nice, bro.
And like that's another aspect that I love about it is like coming up with your own beer names. And you start to
Oh,
realize how hard it is to come up with a good beer name that isn't already taken.
no, and that's true, man. And I mean, I got one around here, man. Of course, one of the conventions actually had their own beer made, and well, not beer made, but it was just labeled, But I mean, it was one of the brewers, Golden Ale, I believe. But
Okay.
it's pretty cool. I like it, man. Just because they kind of tie everything together, and it's just nostalgic, and people just want to collect it and drink it, of course. But I like it though, man. That's pretty cool.
Well, the cool thing is, one of my buddies actually went and stayed in the Stanley Hotel in Colorado in Estes Park,
Oh,
and
bro.
they actually have a brewery in Estes Park that has two beers named after The Shining that they serve at the hotel.
Oh man.
It's
Okay, that's gotta be
it's
cool though.
yeah, he actually brought me some back when he came home. One of them is literally called The Shining Ale, and the other one was Red Rum Ale.
Oh man, and you have those? You have the cans?
I don't have the cans anymore, and they weren't in cans; they were in bottles. But he brought them
Oh,
back. He's
okay.
like, "Hey, man, this is from the brewery in Estes Park. You should try them." And I was like, "Oh, that's great."
No, yeah, man. I mean, it's a good sales pitch too, right? Because people are gonna want to buy it and either drink it or hold on to it, like I said. But that's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
cool, man.
and like people know the Stanley Hotel from being used as the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, but also in its own right because its claim to fame is being haunted.
Yeah. No, yeah, bro. I mean, I've seen photos, and that's one of my things here is like always going up north for during the summer because it's nice and cold out there, man. But yeah, there's a lot of history up there as well, man.
Mhm.
So being able to go somewhere like the Stanley and just be able to enjoy everything, man, that'd be pretty cool, man. I would definitely love to go do that, man. Drink a beer while I'm out there too, Shoot.
Oh yeah.
Couple.
No, and I've seen one of the bands I listen to that actually their last two albums have all been songs based on horror movies.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
they actually did a live acoustic set there.
Damn.
Yeah.
You see, and yeah, I mean, it would make sense because people that are going out there, I'm sure, are going to be fans of the movie or just fans of
Mhm.
horror, man. Because that's it's haunted, so people want to go and see if they experience anything. But that's pretty cool that they get to go out there and jam out too, man.
Yeah. No, it was great because they actually released a song. God, what was it called? I have the albums here. Let's see if it's on one of them.
Yeah, bro. There you go.
This one.
Oh, and you got vinyl too.
Oh yeah, no, they're vinyls. Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
they did a song about The Shining called "Enjoy Your Sleigh."
Nice, bro. What band is this?
It's actually Ice Nine Kills.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. I've heard of them.
So their last two albums have been the Silver Scream and the Silver Scream 2 Welcome to Horrorwood, and like all the songs are based off of different horror movies. So like the first one had a whole bunch of good songs on it with a whole bunch of the classics. The first track on the album was The American Nightmare, all about Freddie, and it was great. There's
Damn.
also Thank God It's Friday, about Jason. Shoot, what's it was the
Man.
Stabbing in the Dark with Michael Myers. Like the song titles are great. The way they tied everything in was great.
Damn. You see, I've heard of the band, but I'm gonna have to look them up now because I didn't know they had songs like that, bro. That's actually pretty cool.
I mean, if you look them up on YouTube, you got to be careful how you watch the music videos from the albums because the lead singer Spencer Charnas, he's actually a huge horror fan,
Yeah.
and with the music videos for both albums, he's kind of used them to make his own mini horror movies.
Oh man, so there's a sequence.
Yeah, there is a sequence to it.
Oh man, now you got me intrigued, man. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
No, it's great. Like I started listening to them years ago before they even started doing that. And they kind of branched into it slowly at first because they actually released an album called Every Trick in the Book, which was all classic literature,
Yeah.
but some famous names in the horror movie scene as well. They did a song about The Exorcist on it. They did a song about Dracula. They did a song for
Oh
Carrie.
man, yeah. I know what I'm doing later, man, for sure.
And
Is there a map? Is there somewhere I can look up and see what sequence? I mean, as far as how the videos go?
I mean, they probably for the first album they probably have a supercut of it because I know at one point in time I ordered a DVD that had all the music videos in order how to watch them because it at least on the first album, what I've seen from the second album, there's a little snippet about the lead singer being interviewed in therapy, talking about stuff. He starts talking about his dreams, and that's when it goes into the music video, and then it ends with something that ties it into the next one.
Man, let me check out that album real quick one more time.
This is the first one. It's just the Silver Scream.
Bro, you see, I had no, yeah, man. I'm gonna have to look them up because I know one of my sponsors actually CD Sam out there in Wonderland of the Americas, dude. He sold a lot of vinyl, bro. So
Yeah,
I'm definitely I'm gonna tag him and tell him
and
to
then
put some of his stuff away from me.
this is. Oh, let me take it out of that sleeve. This is the second one, which was Welcome to Horrorwood.
Damn, bro. Okay, yeah, man. That's definitely. I'm definitely gonna have to look into that because, like I said, I've heard their music, but I just never put one in one, dude. I guess I just
Oh
never,
yeah.
But
I mean, and the cool thing about this one is this one had some other classics on it, especially starting way back with they actually have one about Psycho.
nah. You see, how long ago was this? What's the date on those albums?
Uh, Actually, I have it pulled up on this computer. I can pull it up on my other
Yeah, because
page.
you see, one of the things I told people, it's like for me when I started watching horror, I mean, like Return of the Living Dead. I mean, there's a couple other ones that at the
Mhm.
beginning I always loved the soundtracks, and I told people I was a fan of punk rock music before I knew what punk rock was, dude, because I listened to the music and I was like, wow, okay, so now I can relate one with the other, But that's
I
pretty
think
cool, man.
I think the horror movie scene is probably where more than a few people really got into metal and punk because a lot of it's used. But the first one, the Silver Scream, was released in 2018.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
then the second one, the Silver Scream 2, was actually released in 2021.
Man, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, bro. I had no idea, but they definitely got a fan in me now. I'll check them out soon for
Oh
sure.
yeah. And I mean that's the one thing I love about metal and everything too, because technically if you look at where metal really comes from, they really attribute it to Black Sabbath. And people
Yeah,
thought Black Sabbath, oh, they made this music because they're Satanists and
devil
stuff
and
like that.
oh yeah,
But when you actually listen to the interviews that they did, it's like, no, they wanted to create music that they could picture hearing in a
yeah.
horror movie.
Oh yeah, you see, and that's one of the things. I mean, when it comes to a lot of the indie horror movies themselves, they're always looking for soundtracks, man. So I'm always like, yeah, bro, like check out this band or check out, because there's a lot of
Oh
local
yeah.
guys out there trying to make it. So I'm like, yeah, dude, why not, bro? Shoot.
That's the one thing I'm waiting for in San Antonio is the punk and metal scene to start thriving again because
Yeah.
it took a hit a while back and it hasn't quite fully recovered yet.
No, no, for sure, man. I agree. For me, like, I stopped hanging out or going out. I used to have a music distribution, and I used to write an underground zine, like back in the '90s.
Okay.
And so I used to do the whole fan mail. I used to write
Mhm.
letters and interview bands, and
Yeah.
but I started getting records from a lot of these labels, man, like from New York, from New Mexico, Germany, and England. They were sending me like tons of vinyl and when CDs were barely coming out. But it was pretty cool, man. It was some great times, man. And I mean, it did go under for a while, and I mean,
Mhm.
Punk's like the Waddy exploited. Punk's not dead, bro. But that
Yeah.
it took a hit, like you said. And I mean, now that it's kind of it is coming back. I just recently, the other day, I went to the Deco Ballroom, and they had a couple of the old bands that I used to listen to back in the '90s that came out, and now it's just like, man, I got to come out of retirement, bro. This old man got in the pit, and I was hurting for a few days, but it was worth it.
Oh shoot! I wish I could get in a pit again. My body's a little bit too far gone for that.
Man, I kind of just bit down, and I just went, bro. I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna see these guys again for a while, probably never, so I just had to, man. But it was a good night. I enjoyed it, and like I said, I probably won't do that again, but I'll definitely go by and listen to a few more bands though, for sure.
Oh no, and I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of stuff is starting to pull in some of those small shows. Like, I have a buddy who's in a band here in town, um, and now that I want to think of his band name, I can't think of it.
That'll come.
It'll come, but he's in a psychobilly band, and he's actually played with Coffin Cats.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, actually, I was when COVID was winding down, the Coffin Cats came, and his band was supposed to play with them, but one of his members ended up getting sick, so they weren't able to. But I still went and saw that show, and it was a great
Bro.
one. And
No.
psychobilly is really where you see the horror movie music
Yeah.
crossover the most, because a lot of those songs are typically about your classic stuff from the 50s and 60s.
No, no, for sure, man. I mean, I know a lot of friends too that listen to it and go to the shows because they do
Mhm.
come through San Antonio quite a bit, man. So I mean, the more the merrier, man. I mean, music, you gotta love it. For me, it's just like everything else, a form of expression. So
Mhm.
they can go out there and sing about something we love, man. Why not?
Or in some cases, something really, really messed up that shouldn't be talked about.
That too, man. That too. It's a form of therapy, man. That's what I always tell people, man. I mean, I love going to these bands. I love going to the conventions, the fights,
Mhm.
because for me, it is therapeutic. I'm out there and I kind of let go and just freaking unwind, man. So I love it.
Oh no, and then, I mean, that's the great thing about all this stuff is it does have that therapeutic element to it.
Yeah.
Just because for me, music is a big part of my day, because typically I just have my headphones in, and it's crazy what will pop through my playlist throughout the day.
Yeah, my mix hit or my mixtape would be kind of all over the place right now, but it have a little bit of everything from rock to rap to tejano, everything. Throw everything in there, man. But it's a lot of good music nonetheless, bro. I listen to
um,
it.
Mine's kind of like that. I'll go from some type of deathcore band to rap
Yeah.
to 90s alternative
Oh yeah,
to
bro.
Tejano punk.
Yeah, that too. Heck yeah.
Yep.
You see, man, and that's I think Piñata protest. I mean, of course, local
Yeah.
J, man, you gotta love those guys. For me, I always tell people, man. I mean, I go to HEB these days, and it's mostly because they're playing my jams, bro. All the '90s music that they got going on, that's my club nowadays, bro. I don't go anywhere else, but I'll go get groceries, jam
Yeah,
out.
that's the one thing that kills me every now and again, because I grew up in the 90s. So I grew up listening to a lot of the 90s alternative with my dad. And it's hearing some of those songs every once in a while turn into a classic rock station.
Yeah,
It's a song from the 90s, and my brain just goes, no, this isn't classic rock.
I know, man. I think it was a couple years back. My youngest, because I kept them in the '80s. I used to listen and watch movies from '80s and '90s, and they kind of grew up with that. So they have my sense of humor when it comes to that, man. But my youngest had called me at one point. It was like maybe 4 years ago, and I hear her listening to '80s, and I'm like, man, what are you listening to? And she's like, oh, Kono. And I'm like, what? And she's like, that's Kono. And I was like, man, my heart sank. I was like, no way, dude. I go, that's a freaking. And I had this conversation with her, like to where I was just like, you know what, like, oldies is oldies because of that era.
Mhm.
80s is 80s, man. Like it can't be oldies because it was 80s. It's I was like, dude, they can't do that, man. For as far as what I'm thinking, but yeah, man, it's just people tell me 20 years ago, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's 1990, and I'm like, bro, that's like 2000. It's like
Yeah.
I missed a couple years there, man.
Yeah, no, that's the hard thing, is realizing there's kids that were born in the 2000s that can drink now.
Oh Yes, dude. I actually work at Academy Sports now part time, and
Hmm.
I was doing a fishing license, and I see the guy's license, and it was like the year he was born was like 1999, and I'm like looking at him like, dude, like for me that's like 10 years ago, but he's over here like 20 something, and I'm like my brain doesn't like it doesn't work that great, man. So I'm just like, damn, like
Yeah, no, it's. I know here in a couple of years I'm gonna start having that issue. Somebody's gonna be talking about the 2000s. Like, man, that was like 10 years ago. And they're like, no,
yeah.
man, that was 30. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, you see, and I'll go back. I have a couple of every time I talk to fighters, and I'm like, man, what is it that made you love MMA? And they're like, oh man, when I first saw the Ultimate Fighter, that was when I wanted to get into it. And I'm thinking like, man, I've been watching MMA since like 98, 99. Like they're talking about like 2008 or whatever, whenever it came out. But I'm thinking like, man, I was like 15, 20 years before these guys even knew what MMA was. But it's evolved, and man, I love it, bro.
Oh, it has, and that's the killer thing is most of the people involved in MMA right now are either my age or younger because I'm only sitting at 30, and I
Yeah.
think most of the fighters I've seen range in age from about 23, 25 to about 35, 37.
Oh yeah, man. You see, and there's a couple of fighters I know now that they kind of they took a break, a couple years off, and when they came
Mhm.
back, they're in their I would say like low 30s, but
Mhm.
normally like for MMA, they're like, oh man, once you hit 35, that's kind of too late, to get into it but because they didn't suffer a lot of damage or they didn't compete, they kind of came
Yeah.
back fresh, and I'm like, okay, well you still got a couple years, man, but for these guys that have been fighting since they were like 19, 20, and now they're like 38, and I'm like, dude, that's like 10 years of getting banged up, and all those years of training, man, because it
Oh
does
yeah.
that up, bro.
And you can tell just because some of them do look haggard, but you know they love what they do, and that's probably the reason why they continue to do it.
Oh yeah, man. You see, and that's one of the things with when it comes to combat sports. People are always like, "Oh man, I want to do a fight gear company," and I said, "Man, if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons
Yeah.
because you ain't gonna make money. Like you either do it because you love it or because you want to be a part of it. But it's the guys in the UFC and PFL and Bellator, they're making some good bucks, but when it
Mhm.
comes to the regional circuit, man, they're
No,
they gotta pay your coaches, you gotta pay your training, you gotta pay it's like before you know it, man, you're not making a lot of money, bro.
no, because a lot of it's coming in one hand out the other.
Oh yeah, man, yeah, and that's where sponsors come in, and some of these guys get sponsors. The ones that don't, it's like they keep fighting, but it's because they want to do it. It's not a matter
Yeah.
of like, man, I want to get rich, but it's like I want to go and test myself, and a lot of them do, and sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, man.
I mean, life is a series of either getting beaten up or doing the beating up. Why
Yes.
not? If you have fun doing it, do it.
No, yeah, yeah, by all means, bro. And that's one of the things too. I always tell people, man. I mean, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. A quote that I heard many years ago, and
Mhm.
and I like to think I live by it because if I don't like it, I ain't gonna do it, bro. Like I'm like, nah, bro. Like you know what? Like I'm gonna do this. I mean, I work at Academy Sports because I enjoy it. I get my butt kicked every day, but it's just I enjoy being there. I enjoy helping customers, talking to people. But if I didn't enjoy any of that, bro, I wouldn't be there. Believe me, man.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of the stuff that I do. That sometimes it's just I have so many different groups and stuff I'm a part of, and so much different stuff that I do that some days I'm just wore out and burnt out.
Yeah.
But and I'll get down on it sometimes, but then every once in a while I have the thought like, you know what? Honestly, I enjoy doing this because if I didn't, why am I still doing it?
Exactly, brother. And of course, man, bro, I appreciate you jumping on this. I did want to make a conversation out of it, which I think we did. I'm
Hmm.
gonna put the logo for everybody that's tuned in, of course. Brew City Home Brew Supply here in San Antonio, Texas. And of course, you mentioned you guys are gonna be having an event this Saturday. So for anybody that's wants to stop by and share their brew, of course, they can do so, right?
Yeah, stop by, try some good beer, say hi to myself, say hi to my business partner Ben. Um, we'll be there. I'll be there all day. He'll probably be there all day. We're excited to have this go on. And I mean, if you just want to come by and see what good beer tastes like, that's good on you. If you have legitimate questions you want answered or kind of want to get into it, come talk to us and we can get you started.
No, no, for sure, man. And I might try to make it out there Saturday, man. I don't think I have anything scheduled. I know Friday I'll be at the Boeing Center for the
Mhm.
PFL MMA event, but I'll definitely contact you guys and see if I can make it out there. I'll swing by, bro, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be Saturday, 3 p.m. till probably 5, 6 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, that's a good timing, bro. Because everybody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the show." The band starts at 10. I'm like, dude, I'm at bed by 8:30, bro. Like I'm an old man. But yeah, man, I'll definitely be contacting you guys, and by all means, bro, I would love to bring you back on here, maybe even with your business partner next time as well. But
I'll see if he'll want to do it and let him know because
yeah.
this is great. I love talking San Antonio living.
Oh
I've
yeah, bro.
I've lived here since I was about 14, 15. My business partner will be a little bit more interesting because he didn't move to San Antonio until he was adult, and he moved down from. He's gonna hate me for this because I'm not gonna remember, and I'm gonna say the wrong state. And he's gonna be so mad at me just because my mind's drawing a blank. Oh no!
Oh
The second time I've had to pull information out, my mind just goes, "You're gonna look stupid right now."
yeah, it's not today, man. It's closed. They're like
It's not.
from up north,
Yeah,
right?
from up north. Yeah, it's. I want to say Michigan, but I don't think it's Michigan.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure you hear about it tomorrow, man.
Oh yeah, I'll tell him like, hey man, so bad. I totally forgot what state you came from.
But yeah, bro. I mean, but the fact that he's here in San Antonio, man, and he's partnered up with you and making this thing happen, man. I mean, of course, you guys been open for a while. So my job, as a media guy, is definitely to raise awareness and let people know where you guys are at. I will be
Oh
putting all
no,
that information on the YouTube channel, but by all means, bro,
yeah,
appreciate you,
and
man.
I'll definitely be sharing this around because I've had a couple friends tell me like, hey man, when you go on it, let me know because I have some friends that were excited to hear that this was happening.
No, no, for sure, man. I'm excited as well, bro. I mean, I definitely love content. The fact that we are in San Antonio. If it wasn't for this, we'd probably never run into each other. That's how big the
No,
city is,
probably not.
Yeah.
Yep.
But man, I appreciate you, man, and I'll definitely bring you back on here, man. So appreciate
Thank
you,
you.
bro.
I appreciate it. Maybe I'll have a couple more new horror movies under my belt that we can talk about.
Oh yes, dude. We'll definitely bring that up. Man, everybody, of course, once again, Willie, man, this is gonna be Brew City Homebrew Supply. This is Spider, the Coming Soon podcast. So next time, follow up.
Have a good one.